It's the Happy Families Podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Well, the COVID lockdowns drag on for New South Wales, Victoria, the ACT, New Zealand, and if you're in one of those areas, this is the week of COVID podcasts for you. We're doing everything that we can to help get through the challenges. Oh, by the way, if you're not in a lockdown, we really hope that what we're sharing is still useful. We think that it will be because it's about well-being. It's about getting through the really hard stuff. Ahead of Mental Health Awareness Month next month, we're kind of getting in early, jumping the gun because, frankly, with Victoria going through its 10 bajillionth lockdown and Sydney in its 11th week of lockdown, it's just a tough old time. Oh, my name's...
I was about to say, have you told everyone who you are?
I'm Justin. You are?
I'm Kylie.
And we're the parents of 6 daughters, aged grade 1 through to moved out and married. And this is the Happy Families Podcast.
Today we thought we'd go to the front line of family life during COVID lockdowns. We've been talking about this a lot lately, and we thought that we'd get your ideas on what's been the most challenging, how you've worked through it, and we're really interested to find what the single biggest challenge as a parent has been over the last few years as we've dealt with the pandemic.
The single biggest challenge has been motivating my daughter to do her schoolwork. She's in grade 1. So for her, she has nothing to rely on. It's just her mum forcing her to do work when she's one room away from Erlo Toys.
I have a 20-year-old daughter and she has some mental health issues and addiction issues, and it's been super intense to be a parent of someone in that category during COVID, where the intensity of mental health is increased and the ability to actually get proper help has decreased. And so that's been a really big mental strain for me as a parent and for my 20-year-old daughter who struggles, and that's hard. Mental health is hard for everybody, but if you already have pre-existing mental health issues coupled with addiction, it's been quite excruciating, to be honest, and that's been really difficult.
The biggest challenge has just been managing my own health, my own mental and physical health, and just making sure that I'm fit for my family. And my wife would say the same thing. You know, we're much more aware of what's going on around us and the implications of COVID than our kids. So, you know, we just want to be able to deal with the reality, but also bring hope to our kids. And that's a bit of a juggle. That's a hard one.
Kids look to their parents to kind of go, oh, well, even when they don't understand things, they look to mum and dad and go, well, mum and dad understand it. And at the moment, as parents, we don't understand what's going on. We don't have any control over what's going on either. So we're literally all learning this together day by day.
Trying to deal with the increased levels of uncertainty, almost, of trying to manage expectations and keep on reminding them, hey, you know what, everything's going to be okay, when you don't really know what the end of the tunnel looks like.
Well, it is very hard to get time to work on your marriage and your relationship and have that time with each child that they may need when they're going through a rough patch.
One of the biggest challenges is just feeling like every part of life that sometimes has different elements to it now is all just smashed together in one big spot, and there feels no rhyme or reason or way to separate one from the other.
Trying to find hope for my kids, trying to find an end to the lockdowns, trying to find an end to their isolation from their friends, and how we move through it and how we get to the end of it and how we get back to the way we were before this all started.
Yeah, I love hearing these responses. Parents on the WhatsApp group have said time has been the biggest challenge. That was from one person. Another person really kind of gets to my heart with this one. The lack of and cancellation of family holidays, because they provide that much needed being present together period of time to connect, which is ironically practically impossible at home given the restrictions that we're facing. Isn't it funny? We want time for connection and we rely on the holiday and the getting away from the busyness, because even though we're in lockdown situations, so many families are saying, yeah, but this is not quality time. It's so hard to make that quality time and get that right. And more answers that came through just very quickly. Somebody said, biggest challenge for me is making sure that the kids get an education. In fact, that was a really, really popular response. Another parent said the same thing, homeschooling 2 children simultaneously during lockdowns. 5-year-old needs constant supervision to get the schoolwork done, and at the same time need to continually motivate my 9-year-old to stay focused to complete their work. Plus, you've got all the usual stuff to keep the family ticking along. Very little downtime for yourself.
How difficult has it been to see the impact on socialisation with your children?
My boys do a lot of gaming, and it's interactive gaming, and so they're doing that with all of their friends. And then my 13-year-old daughter is very social, and 13-year-old girls are chatting on all of the platforms of social media, and they're doing a lot of FaceTime, a lot of Zoom calls, meets and things like that. Socialisation is up, but my original problem, it's all on screen time.
You're worried that if they do socialise with their friends, are they going to be at the risk of getting COVID? Like for our kids who are at school, because we're both essential workers, it's a concern for me, some days to think, I don't know who they're mixing with, to know, are they safe?
One of the hardest things is watching kids experience life in a way that maybe as a kid you'd hope they'd not experience.
It's actually really difficult. It's pretty heartbreaking to see when, a party they've been invited to has been cancelled, or the numerous school camps that they've missed out on. Socialisation is such an important part of development. It is just heartbreaking and really hard to see kids struggling with the fact that they're not allowed to do the things that, naturally, we're born to be social. We're born to, be interactive with others. So, it really is heartbreaking.
As a parent, it's so hard to see that they are not getting the opportunities to play sport or to go into a classroom with their friends or go to kids' birthday parties. That's a big chunk of their childhood that's so different to the one that I had.
This is their world now. It's been their world for the last 2 years. My teenagers especially have really great days where they're up and about and laughing and interacting and having conversations with me. And there are days at a time where they go dark. All I know is that my kids are really a lot more resilient than I gave them credit for. And I think in general, they're doing probably a much better job than some adults that I know.
My daughter is very much a little homebody, and we do a lot of Zooms with family members. So she hasn't particularly struggled too much. She is such a social butterfly, but because she's young again, she isn't at that age where that peer socialisation is everything, say, for example, for teenagers. So for a 7-year-old, she's been okay and she's actually coped with that.
It really has had such a profound impact on our children.
And I think this is why the research evidence that we've talked about all week is so important here. The data say clearly that the more prolonged the lockdown and the more restrictive the guidelines that the government, not the guidelines, the laws around this lockdown are, the bigger the impact on connectedness. On the WhatsApp group, this is what some parents said. It's been one of the hardest things I've seen my 3 young children go through. It's just so tough. Another parent said social regression. They're still at school, but they're not with their friends. They're not with their usual teacher. There's no sport and training sessions, no social picnics, no play dates. Teamwork is a bit of a thing for them in kindy as they're so egocentric at that age. And I'm seeing more me at home than I did before. They were learning about working together with soccer and their kindy class. Interesting just how hard the social stuff is, right?
Every parent just really wants their children to do well. And this is hard.
Those social relationships right at the heart of well-being.
Have you found ways to compensate for the lack of in-person connections that children are missing from school and a normal daily life?
My daughter's school does an online lesson every morning at 9, which goes for quite a while. So she sees all of her classmates on screen. That's why she's enjoyed it and she's been okay with that.
I guess you do your best to encourage them to keep up that contact with their friends online. You do your best to get them up in the morning and excited about online learning. You do your best to create Zoom calls with other family members, but it's not easy.
They really have great interactions. It's just completely on screen time. I think the worst thing for my kids at the ages that they are is actually exercise and outdoor life. But socialisation has been supplemented with the online platforms.
We're also very blessed to be a part of a really nice little community in our street where the kids will get to, play their scooters or bikes, or even, a bit of volleyball outside the front yard. I feel like, we can't deprive them of everything. And so having that little bubble with neighbours, they're almost like family, a little bit of connection with kids of similar age has made a difference for our family.
I think it's just finding creative ways to still create that connection and leveraging the digital world that we have. So whether it be watching a movie online together and streaming it over Zoom, or watching it, through like a Disney watch party or something like that together, house party apps and playing games and video chats with friends and family members and neighbours. And it's just trying to find ways to leverage digital assets that, gosh, if this pandemic had hit 5 years ago or 10 years ago, we just never could have done.
I think that most of the responses are generally along the same line. In the WhatsApp group, we got the same kind of answers there as well. People were pretty much saying doing whatever we can to get the kids onto technology or having some physical time out and about with their friends, so long as it's keeping with the rules and the laws. That seems to be what most people are saying.
It's the Happy Families podcast, and today we've gone to the front line of family life. We're asking you how you are surviving COVID.
We asked parents, what does a lockdown routine look like in your house? Here's what they said.
We wake up. I work from home a lot of the time. So I'm at home working. She wakes up. I get her ready for her online classes. She does her first online class. Then she has some brekkie and she has a little bit of TV or playtime while I finish off my work. I work very early hours. So this actually works for us. I do most of my work when she's actually asleep in the mornings. She has some time with me to work through the rest of her curriculum, which is pretty heavy for a 7-year-old. In fact, it does take us a few hours. We break for lunch and then the rest of the day is just free time.
I think a lockdown routine looks somewhat similar to normal life just because each of us as parents are essential workers. So the kids still get sent off to school every single day. So it's still in the morning, it's doing the lunches, getting the school uniforms on, getting everyone up and out the door. Then they're at school during the day. It's only really after school and in the evening that I really feel like things start to look a little bit different because they're not necessarily out and about with their friends or their cousins, and we're not getting ready to head out somewhere and do those kind of things.
There's no after-school activities.
Yeah, all of the after-school extracurricular sports and activities, that's all gone. That's all cancelled. So it's just hanging around at home, and I think we feel it more on the weekends too.
Well, I'm a divorced mum, single mum. So my children, I think one advantage, if there can ever be an advantage of divorce, is variety. So my children go 1 week with me and then 1 week with their dad and stepmom. So they have two houses that they're going between on a week's rotation. So I think that's a lockdown routine brings some variety that maybe families in one household don't have.
In a nutshell, lockdown routine looks like waking up, working early for myself, finishing work, getting the kids up, getting them online, getting them doing school consistently. Some days are better than others. And then at the end of the day, just wanting to curl up into a ball, have a wine and sleep forever.
Research tells us so clearly that routine is so important for children to have a sense of stability, a sense of security, a sense of predictability about life. And some families are just nailing this, and other families, it's so difficult with different age children and so many commitments and parents having to juggle work responsibilities. It's such a tough one. On the WhatsApp group, we had some parents say, no, they have not adapted to it at all. They're struggling every single day. And I hear that and I think, ouch. Another parent said they just haven't. They're in this constant wait till they can go to their friends' houses, till they can play sport, they can go to swimming or nippers or play dates at the park or have some time away from each other. And then they've just said this, waiting. waiting for their friends to come back to school, and 6-year-olds are not great at waiting.
It's heartbreaking. It really is.
They're really hard to get to school at the moment. A million ailments each morning. One more extra one gets super defiant and badly behaved, sometimes aggressive, punched his brother this morning, which isn't normal. Every emotion massively heightened. Reminds me of when those bozos in the Big Brother house would say, everything's just so amplified in here. Love that response.
Our 7-year-old has started using a word that I think just encapsulates everything that we're experiencing right now.
Yeah.
I'm sick of them being so overprotective of me.
She doesn't like being controlled. That's what's really going on here.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But it does. It feels like we're being bubble wrapped.
Okay, what are you interested in?
I'm really interested to know how you keep a positive outlook and how you're projecting that to the rest of the family.
It is about trying to stay positive, trying to look at the good and how well the kids are going, telling them that you're proud of them and, finding the positives in their behaviours and attitudes and instead of, looking to the negatives and the downsides of things.
I am naturally a really positive person, so I am lucky in that way. My daughter is a really cheery, happy little girl, so we're doing really well. I'm a single mum family, and when she's with me, we just make sure we have a lot of fun, lots of laughs, and we just make sure that we've got each other's backs. And I buy her lots of little treats at the end of the week. She can have a special treat. She can have chockies, at the moment we're just doing what we've got to do to survive.
As a dad, I try my very best to keep up the conversation with my teenage kids especially. Maybe once a week I will try and catch them at some point in the day and just get them to open up about where they're at, how they're feeling about lockdown, how they're feeling about their friends, how they're feeling about their online learning. And the most positive thing I can do is to relate to them as a dad, saying that, you know what, if you feel like you're doing it tough, don't worry. Dad's doing it tough sometimes. But also Dad's having great days as well. If the weather's great, if you can get out for a walk, if you can eat your favourite food or watch your favourite show online, then these are little things you can do to keep yourself positive about the day-by-day stuff.
Creating a really fun, spontaneous life outside of the regular remote learning and school timetable is what we're doing to maintain a positive outlook. Fun to me and laughter is everything, and that's what we're doing.
Well, I think one of the big things for us is just being intentional about being thankful and listing and sharing the things that we're thankful for. We've been really disciplined, I guess, in having our weekly family meetings and making sure that we start that meeting with the things that we are really grateful for. And that tends to put things in perspective for us adults as the parents, but then that filters down to the kids. Nothing's off limits, and we just want to be able to have the conversations with the kids in a way that gives them some peace and helps them to know that this thing will end.
I think one of the trickiest things as a parent living in this situation right now is being able to find a positive when you're managing all of the other emotions in the home.
Can I give my favourite hint here?
Yep.
Psychological distance. Create space where you where you think to yourself, in 10 years' time when we look back on this, what do I want my kids' memories to be? To me, that's the best way to keep a positive outlook, because we want our kids to look back on this lockdown thing, and instead of saying, oh, that was the worst period of my life, we want them to look back and say, I just remember how much family time we got, or I just remember how we used to do puzzles or reading every night. I mean, our kids are hopefully going to say, I remember that Dad didn't travel for 2 years. Because until COVID hit, I was traveling 120 nights a year so I could give talks around the country, and I don't travel anymore. I want them to look back and say, this was the time when our family really came together. And I think every family will have something that's unique to them that will allow them to be able to say, okay, this is how we keep the positive outlook. This is how we focus on this, because these are hard times, but they're special times. I love talking to people and saying, what's the best thing that happened to you in the last year? What's the worst thing that happened to you in the last year? And quite often they'll be the same. And I think that COVID is one of the worst things that could have happened to us. And yet, if we have the right mindset, it could be one of the best things that have happened to us.
For other families and parents who are going through this incredibly challenging time in lockdown, what is your message to them?
I would say to them that they are incredible. They are warriors. We've never been trained for this. We have never been prepared for this, and we've never, ever had to deal with this before. And we are doing it day by day. We're doing it. And that shows how incredibly resilient we are. And I know that through adversity, that's when character grows. So I feel like as tough as this is, we will all come out of it better, stronger, kinder, more compassionate people, including our children.
Change it up, do something different. Keep the boundaries that have to stay, remote learning, clean up your room, some of those things that are good disciplines, but throw away the boundaries you have no rhyme or reason for and have some fun in spontaneous moments.
The biggest message I would send to families that are going through this incredibly challenging time during lockdown is to not compare yourself to anyone on social media, to anyone that tells you that they are flying during lockdown. It's great. If people are flying during lockdown, that's great. But if you're not, the last thing you want to do is go online and see how perfect everybody else's life is. The tip is that no one's having a perfect life during lockdown. And if you're struggling, and if you feel like you're failing as a parent, if you feel like you're not up to scratch, it's okay. You're doing the best that you can do.
You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be good enough. Be, as attuned to them as you can be. Focus on the positives. Find something in your day you can be thankful for, and make the most of the family time you can have with them.
There's some really awesome ideas there.
Yeah.
And if you can find a way to make an adventure out of this crazy life experience that we find ourselves in, your kids are going to have some amazing memories.
Well, we really hope that you've found this podcast helpful. If you're going through lockdown situations, or even if your family's just in a little bit of an upheaval at the moment, some really nice ideas, some words of wisdom, and hopefully some wonderfully encouraging thoughts and ideas for you. The Happy Families podcast is produced so expertly by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. JR, we appreciate the enormous amount of work that you do to make the podcast sound great. Thank you. Craig Bruce is our executive producer, and Craig, as always, we thank you for your ideas and the long conversations that we have as we try to refine how to make this podcast sound great for those time-poor parents who just want answers now. If you would like more answers, more premium content, more opportunities to make your family happier, we recommend that you take a look at happyfamilies.com.au, but especially have a look at the Happy Families memberships. Premium content including webinars, articles, and a whole lot more, just for your family, because a happy family doesn't just happen. Happy Families memberships are available at happyfamilies.com.au.